G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for the news vlog. As you can see, it's quite late. It's around 10 o'clock right now while I'm filming, and I just had an opportunity now after a long hard day of working in the Melbourne heat wave, right? I was at the beach doing some shoots and it was packed full of people enjoying the summer sun. I don't know, how's your day been today in the heat wave? First story I have is, guys, is a tragic story out of Queensland from Ipswich. A grandmother, a mother, a wife has been brutally murdered in front of her 6-year-old granddaughter while finishing the shopping at a shopping center in Queensland. Can you believe that the types of stories that we're hearing now in Australia, where people who are being robbed are now brutally stabbed and murdered? It wasn't that long ago I was talking about the doctor here in Victoria that when after his house was robbed, he confronted the criminals and they stabbed him to death, right? And now this is even more tragic. You can't compare the two, but this is even more tragic because there's a little girl next to her grandmother, and her grandmother's being brutally murdered by these individuals at a shopping center. Like, this is like stuff you see in America, stuff you see in parts of Europe. Now, I know there's crime in Australia, there's murders in Australia, there's all this kind of stuff, but it's kind of become so brazen now and so in your face. And when you look into actually what's happening here, you know, some of the culprits seem to be from similar groups and similar circumstances, similar backgrounds, and also have a history of crime and committing these type of crimes. And it's not being addressed, I believe, in an adequate manner to make the community safe, because we cannot live in a country, right? We cannot let this country become a place going to the car park to put their shopping away. Some person jumps them, right? Brutally stabs them multiple times, right, in front of a kid. Like, this is not the country that we should let Australia become. So these issues need to be addressed very, very strongly, I believe, by those community leaders, both politicians, those community leaders from these communities where these individuals hail from. I think that's very important that these things are addressed, because this cannot become the norm in Australia. So I'll read you this article from 9 News. Adored grandmother stabbed to death in abhorrent shopping center attack. There's this lady here. It's just tragic looking at this, because innocent lady, her husband is apparently also blind and she looks after him, right? And now that's gone for him as well. This is like a tragic story in our country. A family is grieving and a community reeling after an adored grandmother was violently stabbed to death in front of a child after doing her shopping. Wileen White, 70, was attacked near her car in an underground car park at Town Square Redbank Plains Shopping Centre in Ipswich, southwest of Brisbane. Police described the incident, which took place just after 6 p.m. yesterday, as an abhorrent and cowardly attack. A 6-year-old girl witnessed the attack but was not injured. White's daughter told 9 News she was the light and life of their family, describing her as the most loving, compassionate and caring person you could ever meet. Like I said, a wife, a grandmother, a mother, lost in a senseless murder at a car park over what? Just tragic. And the worst part of this story is, initially when this was being reported, right, and even after the police had given the identity of this individual as being of African appearance, some of the media, which initially reported that, retracted those stories and like deleted some of those descriptions. They were very slow to release this description, right? And you can come up with whatever reason that they decided to do this. People have said, oh, it's because they wanted to make sure, whatever. Witnesses had said to the police, and police had put it in their statement. So that was a part of the police statement. I reported on it, and when I shared that information, I said the police statement line that this is a person of African appearance, as a matter of fact. And people were calling me a racist, telling me that I'm trying to incite a race war in this country, telling me that I'm trying to paint Africans as these evil people that just commit crimes. And that's not what this is about. This is about being factual when reporting, and this is about putting out into the community the facts so the community can act to keep themselves safe, right? Because the last thing you want is when someone is brazen enough to murder a grandmother in front of a kid at a shopping center, for that description not to be widely shared out as soon as possible, so people can be on the lookout for the individuals that might be responsible. Because that helps, right? That's important. So whether it's African, whether they're Indian, whether they're white, right? Definitely if they were white, the stories would have been white man murdered, grandmother, and on the run, white Caucasian male, 6 foot tall, whatever. They would do all of that straight away. But yeah, the media was very slow on that, and that's the point of criticism for me. It's been widely reported now because the police have also now shared CCTV footage of 4 people that they want to speak to. I believe that this is the grandmother's car that they're driving in that was taken from some of the reporting that I've seen. So they potentially dropping the car here, right? Just getting rid of it here. But you can see these individuals, and the police want to speak to them now. And apparently within these individuals, the attacker is there as well, because the whole attack was caught on CCTV. And apparently it's just abhorrent and horrific to watch, because when that grandmother was attacked, that little girl ran inside for help. And yes, an African person did come out as well to help. That's important as well. So it's not the whole community. No one's blaming the community for any of these kind of things, right? And that girl went for help. This man came out, tried to help resuscitate her because he had that medical experience. He couldn't help her. But the point I'm trying to make is this whole horrific incident, there's so many layers to it. We can't just make it about race, as people are saying, but we have to be factual and honest when reporting on these crimes. And there's clearly a problem. And there's clearly a problem within certain communities around Australia, whether it's in Victoria, and now we're seeing in parts of Queensland. And when I'm reading the commentary online, a lot of people are saying that these issues are very prevalent in their communities, but the police maybe don't want to address them so directly. And I feel like the fact that we don't address these issues directly only means that they get worse and worse and worse, right? We've had African community leaders speaking to the media today in that area, saying that this is not representative of the entire community, and it's just one individual or a group of individuals committing this act. And I agree, it's not representative of all people. Of course not. If someone that is a white person or an Indian person commits a crime, it's not representative of everyone. But there's clearly problems within certain demographics and certain groups that need to be addressed. And especially if these crimes keep happening in those certain demographics and certain groups, you can't just turn around and be like, they're not us anymore, it's an individual. All right? We've got to address those community issues, because a lot of the time these people are a part of that community, and that's where they grow up, that's their friends, and that's their influences. So you have to understand that whole context to solve some of these issues. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be racist or anything like this, as people are saying. I am just concerned that in our country, we need to be able to safely be able to go to shops, do our shopping, come back home without being stabbed to death halfway during that trip because someone wants to rob you. We've always had crime. We've always had petty theft. There's been murder, of course. There's all this kind of serious stuff. But it's not these brazen, random murders of strangers, particularly vulnerable individuals like grandmothers in front of their children. It's not common to this country, and it should never become common. The next story I have, guys, is around the Victoria Police. They attended a Pride March today, the Midsummer Pride March here in St Kilda, and they were attacked. They were attacked by the usual left-wing mob that don't want them there. They don't want them marching at the Pride marches because they say, of course, police have a bit of a sketchy history when it comes to their enforcement against the LGBTQI community, particularly in the past. These days, they try to mend those bridges. They try to attend events like this, march alongside them, but some people don't like their presence there and they attack them. So this is the news story surrounding that. I'll just play it now.
Victoria police officers have been pelted with paint bombs and abused while taking part in the Pride March in St Kilda. Let's go live to Laura Turner. Laura, the Chief Commissioner was caught in the middle.
He was, Dougal. He was marching with about 100 Victoria Police members and state government employees here in St Kilda this afternoon, just before 2 p.m, when he says this all turned ugly. A crowd of about 60 protesters has turned up and ambushed police members walking along Fitzroy Street, pelting paint bombs at them and chanting "Cops kill queers." Now, sadly, family members of those officers were caught in the crossfire, even children as young as 4 years old, as well as police band members too. Shane Patton, the Chief Commissioner, has spoken out about this afternoon, saying he's disgusted and that this appeared to be premeditated.
Their conduct I have nothing but contempt for it. Yes, someone is in a pig's head. This was a next level elevation. It was clear. Their intent was clear. It was pre-planned.
Yeah, Victoria Police, there's no love lost there between Victoria Police and these communities when it comes to these type of issues. And you're seeing the more extreme elements, these left-wing lunatics, as I call them, because they crash all types of things and commit these premeditated attacks. They've been doing it for a long time at different things, but now they've done it to the police themselves. A lot of people, when you read the commentary online, Victoria Police is not universally liked by almost any side in our community here in Victoria, and you see that in the comments. A lot of people are like, oh well, so what, right? That's the attitude that people have towards the police in our community right now, and a lot of that blame goes to this man here, Shane Patton. Over the last couple of years, he has, I think, destroyed the reputation of Victoria Police for what it's worth, for whatever that reputation was. It no longer exists as anything of a tangible good in any form or shape. Most people hear Victoria Police and they just think of thugs. And it's the result of this guy, his policing over the last couple of years. Do you think the police deserve to get treated like this by these protesters? And the last story that I have, guys, is international story. Only 3 stories today. This is the WHO chief, Tedros. Tedros has been popping up here and there over the last couple of weeks. We saw him recently at the World Economic Forum discussing Disease X and saying how people need to sign up. When I say people, I mean countries need to sign up to the WHO Pandemic Treaty to be ready for Disease X, to be better prepared for Disease X, because that can happen, eventuate. And if the WHO's talking about it, more likely than not, Disease X might be around the corner, right? But WHO Chief Tedros is quite unhappy these days about the misinformation and disinformation that his organization is copying, according to him. And he thinks there's real issues there with getting the pandemic treaty over the line, because there is a lot of opposition to the pandemic treaty from many countries around the world, especially from the constituents putting pressure on their governments not to sign up to these globalist agendas and treaties, and to give up the sovereignty over their health, literally, like the way that they can administer their health systems. Why give up sovereignty over that to the UN? So because of that, Tedros is now appealing to younger generations, right? Like imagine Greta Thunberg's, to put pressure on their governments to ensure that they sign up to the WHO Pandemic Treaty. Let's have a listen to Tedros.
The pandemic agreement is mission critical for humanity. If it had been in place before COVID-19, we would not have lost so much. We would not have suffered so much. At the generation that lived through COVID-19, we have a collective responsibility to protect future generations from the suffering we endured. As young people, you have the most to gain from a strong agreement. It's likely you will face another pandemic in your lifetime. We can't know how mild or severe it might be, but we can be prepared. So we need you to raise your voices, to tell your leaders that you want this agreement, you want this accord. It's your future. And we need you to raise your voices to counter the lies that are undermining the agreement on social media, in conversations with your friends and families, and in any other way.
All right, I'll stop it there. How bad do you think this treaty negotiation is going? I think it's in May they have to, ratify it, or whatever they have to do. They have to push it through, and it must be disastrous at the moment for Tedros to be out there begging the younger generations to do his dirty work and pressure everyone to push it through by saying that, who knows when, the next pandemic or disease X, who knows when that's coming around. It's up to you. It's up to you if you want to protect your health and safety to ensure that people sign up to our pandemic treaty. Young people watching out there, watching my work, let me know. Would you be helping Tedros out and pushing the pandemic treaty onto your leaders? Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me so late today. I hope you've enjoyed my show. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please consider subscribing to my work on YouTube. You can also follow along on X, Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, and Odyssey at The Real Rukshan. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Take care.